Hello everyone, I am Nu-Trix, the synth guy, and today we're talking about Arturia new plugin. It's called Fragment or Efx Fragments, and it's a granular plugin. It's weird, it's fun. It also has, on top of being granular and just ready to do mayhem on your sound, it's actually pretty efficient in doing two very different approach. Either create rhythm on something that doesn't have any, or create a new rhythm and pitch control over something that is fixed in a way, or creating very vast, lush, weird, a little bit changing pad type of sounds. But it's not a reverb. It has a reverb. It has a delay. It has a tape delay. It has a compression, filter, distortion. There's a lot of plugins in it, or effects in that plugin. It is a granular synthesis. It's a granular plugin first. And if you don't know about granular synthesis, I did a video about it about a year ago, and it should be like here. But in a nutshell, granular synthesis is a way to analyze a chunk of sample, like something that was digitally recorded. It's used to analyze, and the chunk you're going to use as part of the plugin itself, you can select the size of the chunk you're analyzing, and that chunk will be split into grains. That's what we call it, granular. And these grains are a bunch of frequencies together, if you want to look at it this way, with an envelope at the beginning and at the back, and then you control if the envelope is very fast or slow, so you can create kind of slow movement between them. You can have many grains or very few grains, so it becomes very sparse or very hectic. You can have grains being triggered very quickly, so you have a lot of them being thrown at you, or you have very few grain. So all of these options makes it, in a plugin, make it really interesting, because it really helps you create movement and life into a sound, let's say a loop, that is already fixed because it's a recorded digital audio file. So for this video, I'm going to use loops. I'm not going to take a synthesizer through it. It's the same logic, but I want to show how I would use it with loops and to bring life into an existing loop that everybody else can have, because you take them from a bank, for example, but you can make your own and you can give it more life because of this plugin, which is really fun. Now, Fragments is from Arturia, who also create pigments. There's a big part that is inspired by it because of the fact that at the middle or at the bottom, you have a list of modulation sources you can assign to whatever you want. So it's very modular, and that is really cool. I could even use that plugin without using the granular part and just use the effects, because they sound really nice. They're Arturia's plugins, and the fact that they can be modulated by these sources. So it's really, really fun. Let's actually go in new song. Just gonna have a kick, 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 snare, snare, and a hi-hat, hi-hat, just something like that. Very, very simple, nothing to it. Okay, turn it off for now. What I have here, I have on this side, I've got the Rolling Cloud sample pack. I have the ultimate Rolling Cloud account. And every 2 weeks almost, there's a new sample pack or a new preset you can load into one of your synthesizer. And the sample packs are basically loops. There's also MIDI file in them sometimes, depending on the file you have. But let's say I have here, I'm going to take, I don't know, I'm going to take this one. I think this one is a cool one. Or this one. So I'm going to take this one, drop it here. It creates a file, so I have it here. Okay, and I have also this one I liked. It's a pad. Take that one, put it here. Let's start with the drum so you understand what I'm talking about. When we have the drum, go in. I'm going to load an effect. Actually, I'm going to go back full screen, and I'm going to load Arturia's. There we go. Actually, no, I'm just going to go right here to Efx. It's an E effects, because I was looking for fragments. I couldn't find it, but it's Efx Fragment. Turn that on. Now it's loaded. So we get that window here, which is pretty interesting. There's a bunch, of course, of presets you can clear here. I have the pre-release, and there's some weird stuff happening with the bank, because I cannot just go click, click, click on the next one. So I think this is because I don't have the official final release. I have a pre-release version. So this is probably something that's going to be fixed. So this is a small window. You get these two sections here, the top and the middle, and the bottom. But when you click Advanced, you also have access to a full section at the bottom. So let's actually go and look at the first part. This section here, I'm going to stop it for now. This intensity and effects, these two here, if you look at the bottom, this section here of the screen, when you click on it, or when you go just hover over it, you have intensity is also called macro 1. It controls multiple parameters at one time. So you decide what that knob is going to do. And if I play it, if you look at that section here, macro 1, assign, there's a little graphic here of the movement. So as I move it, it moves with it. It shows you the graphic. So this can be controlling different section. Right now, if I move it, you can see that it controls the random faction here. If I move this, it goes like that. So you see the movement is happening. The effects, if I move it, same logic, it's going to affect this one here. But what is it affecting? Probably nothing right now. But I could actually click on it and assign. That's what I was talking about. This section at the bottom here is really taken from Pigments. You have this section of different controllers. You click on them. You can decide what they are. So we have an envelope follower. Press play. You have that control. If you want to assign it to something, I could assign this to, I don't know, any control. And to assign it, you just go, like this. You just hover on top, and you have this little two arrows, and then you can just go up. So now you see that this is actually, I'm going to turn this off. Okay, we just talked about how to assign stuff. Let's go through the whole system here. Let's take I think the default one is simple. Okay. Now, the yellow parts that you might see here, these are random values. If you say I don't want this to be really randomized, or I don't want it to be randomized. Like this one, I don't want it to be randomized. You hear it becomes a lot tighter. So you create so random is really this section, the yellow one, and for all of the values. So what you have at the top here, you have this section, you see the samples going in, and you see the zone or the time frame that is sampled. So this is going to take 4 bars, analyze it, and use it again. Or you can say, no, I want to use 2 bars, or I want to use 3 half bar, a full bar, half a bar, quarter, eighth of a bar. So it would change how the plugin is analyzing the zone, the section it's analyzing. So of course, this is going to create much of a rhythmic result to it, because of course, used to selecting the rhythm of it. Then if you look at it, let's say we say 1 bar, you see this yellow part moving in. The lower yellow part is this section here, is how the grain is being captured. Let's say you say speed, and it's at 1, so it goes 1 the real time of the speed of this. If you go half speed, you see now it's going slower than the actual playback. Okay, and that's interesting. And you have the grain direction here. You want it to go backward. You see, it plays back as the capture head move. The playback is going backward, or you want it to be facing forward. So it's pushing it out as you go normally. So you can really go slowly if you want. So it can really become weird. That's the cool part. Let's actually turn off the effects. So we just hear the grain themselves. So first of all is this. You decide the bar, the section, the time, and then how the playhead is gonna analyze. You can also select on using grain, you can quantize it, like quantize with the transient. You see that it analyzes the transient and it knows where it should analyze it. And you see the playback is here, now it's here, now it's here. So it really goes with the quantizing. Or you can create a grid. And the grid, then again, you can click on how much section you have in the grid or very little section you have. So this is interesting to use a grid when you have some type of a pad where there's not enough transient, but you want to create rhythm in a pad because you will create slices, so it will become rhythm based. Let's go to transient for now, or even, nah, I like it. So you have this. Next you have the grain release, how these grains going to be released. Oh, just go back, grain capture. There's also manual. Basically, you decide where it's going to put the head. Let's say I wanted it here. So it's staying always here. It's always the same place. Okay, so you decide where it's going to be happening. Or, again, speed is probably one. Again, it depends on what you're doing with this. But I like speed because it's, again, it goes with the notion of creating rhythm. So this now here is how the grains, after they're being captured and recorded and analyzed, how are they going to be released? How are you going to hear them? Do you want density is how many grains are being sent out? The size is how big each grain is. The octave, the pitch, you can actually pitch them up or down. That's how you could play with them. You know, like right now, if I put a 0 randomization, random value, size always the same, and the pitch always the same. If we put it higher, so you're playing an octave higher. So you still have the original sound, and the result is this. So it's really a question of how and what you want to do with it, but that's the logic. Again, if you bring the random part of it, start moving around. So it could be interesting, could be not what you want at all. So just keep that in mind. You can play with that. Let's say we don't have random for now, so you hear what we're doing. On top of that, you have the grain shape. Each grain, are they really tight? The attack, are they cutting really? You hear the attack is transient. And now we have a slow attack and soft release. So because I'm playing with the shape of the grain. And there's different shapes you can play with, but you understand the logic is that all of them, they have a shape. And then you find one that fits with what you want to have. You want it to be more obvious. You know, you're just creating rhythm. This is actually pretty nice. The grain direction, forward, backward. We hear less of the backward one. Let's say we're going to go with something like this. And you can also have a mix of the two. The width. The width is for random per meter for left and right to have a wider sound and a stereo pan. See? Okay, so they're being triggered all around the place. And then if you want to have a different sound to it, let's say we went forward, you want them to be longer. You want it to be smaller. See? So that now they're longer, you can hear them. I'm creating rhythm. So again, it's just a fun, you can go really deep into that. And it's just like when plug in with my drum, I'm just like, I already have that cool rhythm going, you know? And I said, well, this is interesting. Now I could actually go in here and use this. So I'm going to take one here. And I'm going to assign this to see, I'm changing the rhythm because I'm changing the density in real time using that envelope. This is fun. Okay. Now, if I can also change the sound of it, there's a grain crush. And if you play with that, listen a little bit of what you have. It's very subtle. It's in the high frequencies. It's kind of the artifacts of older samplers. Okay, now on top of that, after that you have the panning. So this is a random panning. There's a speed for it. There's the amount, the distance, or I don't want any. I want it to be middle. Okay. And then there's Efx One, turn on. The Efx One is, in this case, a delay. You got a multi-filter, distortion, compression, pitch, shift, delay, tape, echo. And like everything else you have here, click on function, assign, and assign it to the time, for example. And let's take this and go. It just adds up. And again, it just creates movement and life into something that is more by default static. I'll keep it like that. That's my drum. I like it. Okay. Let's say I'm now going to play with the bass. Let's try those with the pitch, because these are also really interesting. 1 bar glimmer. What do we have here? Okay. It comes from this. A delay dream sequence. Okay, if you change to texture, turn these off. Now you have layers. Texture now is layer here. How many layers are played at the same time? Whereas if you choose classic, it's not as layer, it's how many grains you have, so they can overlap, but it's not the same way, so it doesn't sound the same at all. And rhythm, or rhythmic, you can decide when they don't play anything, and when they do. A good example, if we go back to, where was it? Dirty, here we go. Maybe maybe my bass line is not energetic enough to have something interesting for this. I'm gonna drag this here and play this to it. You see, this is the steps that we're going to now. It moves. And we're in random. So let's say for so 0, 1, 2. So this is the amount, how many grains are being sent as you go through this step. So it can really become like almost a melody that you're playing. And we're going from this. That's my original source. And there's some that are really more like this one. This is really cool because you're creating something from the original sound, and we're basically using the pitch here, using the sequencer. It goes up and fifth, and it just works. Just a nice sounding. The original is this. This is the result, and when you have them together, you're just adding like another instrument playing. And again, if we go back and it's just fun. It's just fun. So that's the logic. You can imagine I could spend hours in this just diving and trying all these different things, but you can see that the fact that you have at the bottom these two macros that you can assign here to whatever you want, these three functions are basically just an LFO that you draw the way you want, an envelope follower that can do, again, just follow whatever comes in, a sequencer that you can draw, again, very efficiently what you want, and there's different options here, and there's another sequencer you can have here for triggering grains, plus the two effects that can be controlled by all of these things. This thing is massively powerful. It's just surprisingly powerful. And keep in mind that you have like distortion in this. You can really go. Let's try distortion with this just to see. And if this one here, we decide to go with multi-filter. That's fun. It's just it's just fun to play with. I'm just going to play you an example of what I did as I was preparing for this. So you have this again. About, not exactly the same, but something like we just did together now. And what I added this time is voices. Okay, just to have you understand. The voices I'm using, they come from ZVON here. ZVON is a guy that actually takes sounds from old films that are now free to use. There's no copyrights on them anymore. He samples all of these bits of sentences,
Wow, close call. I'm wondering if we should be here at all. I'm wondering if we should be here at all. Why don't you get...
And though we tried to keep our spirits up, it was still pretty...
I can believe you, Winky.
Pardon me, sir, but a car just drove through number 3 gate without stopping for identification.
So you can understand, you know, there's a bunch of these, and some of them are really weird, and I like this one here that I want to use for this example, is this voice that goes...
Well, I can't imagine any people in their right mind exploring planet Venus. Well, I can't imagine any people in their right mind exploring planet Venus.
Okay, so now if I put this with the effects, you get a rhythm, you get some of the voice are coming out, and it's just fun to go. It's easy to create something that is fun, you know? So you can see that I'm happy with this. It's just a cool plugin. There's so much stuff you can do with it. Of course, it's weird, but it can be very not weird, very normal in a way, but I like it because it's weird. That's it. I hope this helps you understand what you can do with it, and if you like it, check it out. Stay safe, make me music. See you soon. Cheers, guys.